Countries US citizens are not allowed to visit. Hello and welcome to Global Insider. Make sure to watch this video to the end. If you think America being the world's superpower can do anything, this video might prove you surprisingly wrong. Just because the United States ranks at the top position when it comes to being a highly developed country doesn't mean it is lucky enough to rock anywhere at once. It might shock you that in the world where people with American nationalities can travel to more than 172 countries without visas, there are a few exceptions that do not like Americans as their visitors at all, even though the US dollars are actively traded in these countries. US nationals have a tough time getting there. Either they are prohibited or they have to go through a challenging and long journey of visa processing. Most of these countries are famously known worldwide. A few are even the world's poorest countries, yet they dare to ban Americans inside their territory. What can be the reason behind it? After all, it's the American passport that ranks at the top 7 position on the Passport Index 2024, yet Americans are criminals somewhere and in other places. They are terrorists. Join us to have a look into 10 countries that are not very accessible to Americans in terms of relocation or travel. Let's see if we can find some underlying conflicts among these states and the US. So without further ado, let's dive in. Number 10. North Korea. The highly centralized totalitarian state of North Korea is at the top of the list here, despite being one of the poorest countries in the world. North Korea has its rules and regulations on point. It is the one reason why US citizens have a tough time visiting North Korea. North Korea's isolationist stance played a crucial role in the travel restrictions. Furthermore, the country has ongoing hostilities with the US. The vital reason giving rise to this hostility is the awful and cautionary tale of Otto Warmbier, a young American who witnessed the harsh consequences of this country's rigid political system, and it became the catalyst for the current ban on visas. The story belongs to 2015, when a Virginia University student Warmbier traveled to North Korea as part of a guided tour. At the beginning of 2016, Pyongyang International Airport apprehended him after he attempted to flee the country. The officials charged Warmbier with committing a hostile act against the North Korean government, allegedly because he attempted to remove a propaganda poster from his hotel. Following a 1-hour trial, Warmbier was found guilty. Unfortunately, Warmbier's situation worsened much further. North Korea detained him for 17 months before freeing him in June 2017. But they returned him to the United States unconscious and suffering from severe brain damage. He departed this life after 6 days. The Warmbier case has increased tensions between the United States and North Koreans from traveling to North Korea. At the moment, US nationals must get a special validation passport from the US Department of State to go to North Korea. Only specific circumstances such as journalists reporting on the area or humanitarian aid workers will be granted this kind of passport. Number 9. Venezuela. One of the most well-known countries in South America, Venezuela is known for its remarkable beauty, but Americans somehow are not lucky enough to cherish it. Venezuela has experienced a political and economic catastrophe for the last few years because of the ongoing crisis, public unrest, criminal activity, poor health facilities, kidnapping, and the arbitrary detention and arrest of American citizens. The US Department of State advises against traveling to Venezuela for the US citizens. Moreover, there are no more direct flights from the US to Venezuela. However, if you are an American citizen, you must get a visa to enter Venezuela. Nevertheless, since there isn't a Venezuelan embassy or consulate in the US, getting one might be a challenging process. The reason lies in the 2019 termination of diplomatic ties between Venezuela and the US. So being a US citizen, applying for a visa can be a challenging process, as the Americans trying to enter Venezuela without a visa have been charged with terrorism and other notable crimes. Even if you have covered all the legal details before going there, there's no guarantee of a safe stay in Venezuela. With an American identity, seems like not heading to Venezuela is a better option for Americans. Number 8. Syria. Things have not always been the same between the US and Syria. Syria went into active armed conflicts in 2011, giving rise to immense violence and civil unrest. Since then, the country hasn't managed to retain its original status on the international stage, keeping in view the high risks associated with Syria. The US Department of State advises the natives against traveling there. However, the major reason giving rise to the tensions between Syria and the US is the Syrian civil war. The war circumstances devalued Syria to travel due to rising terrorism, kidnapping, civil unrest, and unjust armed conflicts. Getting a visa to enter Syria is a challenging and time-consuming process for an American. Moreover, the closure of the Syrian embassy in Washington in 2014 poses a challenge to the United States. Therefore, to apply to a Syrian embassy currently in existence, you need to go through a third country. It is crucial to keep in mind that any journey to Syria could have a significant impact on future travel plans. If, for example, your passport has a stamp from Syria on it, you may not be allowed entry into other countries, and you definitely don't want it. Though Syria is home to many historical and cultural sites, it's vital to remember that the country's continuous strife has caused a great deal of harm and devastation, leading to a humanitarian crisis. Therefore, due to safety concerns, we strongly advise against traveling to Syria at this time, especially if you are an American national. Number 7. Bhutan. As we continue to visit the peaceful Himalayan nation of Bhutan, it is important to know that the difficulties Americans face when visiting this place are not the result of political conflicts, but of Bhutanese unique tourism policies. Bhutan seems extremely conscious of protecting its natural resources and cultural legacy. It is one reason the country only permits a limited number of tourists every year. And if that tourist is an American, he has to pay a daily fee of around $200 to $250. The policy known as high-value, low-impact is an inventive endeavor to encourage ecologically conscious tourism. The price includes 3-star hotel accommodations, all meals, transportation inside Bhutan, a licensed tour guide, camping gear for hikers, and the sustainable tourism royalty. All in all, it is a complete package that directly benefits the health of the country. However, traveling there can still be a little difficult because not everyone can afford to pay such a value each day. Number 6. Saudi Arabia. Even though Saudi Arabia is a major oil provider to the US, the country's stringent visa regulations used to make it difficult for American travelers to enter the country. Strictly controlled by Islamic laws, the nation had previously only granted visas to family members of citizens, business travelers, and Hajj pilgrims. However, as part of its Vision 2030 initiative, which aims to diversify its economy beyond oil, Saudi Arabia introduced a new tourist visa in 2019. To draw in foreign tourists, Saudi Arabia has made a major policy change by permitting Americans to apply for a tourist visa. However, the process still has some rules and regulations. For instance, women tourists still have limitations to travel alone. There's a set age limit for that. Despite the government's relaxation of the previously strict dress code, women are still required to wear modest clothing. Also, non-Muslim citizens have restrictions on visiting some highly religious places. So keeping notice of all the prohibitions is important before applying for a Saudi visa. Number 5. Cuba. Even though relations between the US and Cuba have considerably improved over time, there are still travel restrictions in effect. The United States embargo against Cuba, known locally as El Bloqueo, is a holdover from the Cold War that prohibits American visitors from visiting the island country, only for leisure. However, within one of the 12 approved categories, US citizens are still able to travel. Among them are visiting family members, journalistic and professional study-related activities, religious activities, public performances or competitions, and the most often used slogan, support for the Cuban people. For this last category, Visitors must maintain a full-time schedule of activities that support and uplift Cuban civil society and its citizens. It may be feasible to engage in activities like staying in a casa, which is a private residence, dining at paleteas, which are private restaurants, shopping at private markets, and striking up discussions with individuals about their lives and society. After determining your travel classification, you must obtain a Cuban tourist card or a visa. Most assessors can get a tourist card through their airline when they make travel arrangements to Cuba. If a traveler is traveling directly from the United States, their card is pink. If they are traveling from another country, their card is green. Some airlines charge a separate fee in addition to the card cost, while others include the card cost and the ticket price. Keep in mind that traveling to Cuba for pure vacationing isn't allowed. So make sure to clear your purpose before heading there. Number 4. Eritrea. Eritrea, a country in the Horn of Africa, has earned the nickname North Korea of Africa due to its authoritarian leadership and isolationist policies. The difficult relationship between the United States and Eritrea is a result of several circumstances, including Eritrea's human rights record and the imprisonment of local U.S. embassy workers in Eritrea, and tourist visas are notoriously difficult to get, and the approval procedure is often unpredictable. Even when all the required documentation has been submitted, approval is not guaranteed. It can take many months to finish the process, which is a rather lengthy process. It is a matter that warrants consideration. Furthermore, limited travel options are available to you, even with a valid visa for foreign visitors who want to travel outside of Asmara. The process of acquiring a travel permit from the Eritrean government can be a very unpredictable and time-consuming undertaking. Additionally, traveling outside approved areas could result in fines or other consequences. Usually, only visitor-friendly locations received specified permissions. When people talk about Eritrea, they usually talk about its unique attractions. Number 3. Iran, a nation rich and historical treasures and friendly people. Iran is full of diplomatic roadblocks for all Americans. Because of the 1979 Iranian Revolution, relations between the two nations have become strained. It all began when the United States placed harsh sanctions on Iran due to nuclear disagreements. If you want to visit Iran for some valid purpose, as the country allows, you need to hire a tour guide to do so. Remember, U.S. citizens cannot travel to Iran alone. An American should be a member of some government organization, and he can only make it to Iran under special guidance. Also, applying for an Iranian visa is a long and tiring process. Your chosen tour operator will provide you with a detailed schedule for your stay in Iran. There's not much room for spontaneous exploration, because this schedule is part of the application process for your visa. You must strictly adhere to this itinerary, which is mandatory. However, the State Department of the U.S. puts it: do not travel to Iran due to the risk of terrorism, civil unrest, kidnapping, and the arbitrary arrest of U.S. citizens. So precaution is always better. Number 2. Somalia. Somalia is currently experiencing a long-suppressed conflict. The Al-Shabaab and the Dinah Somalian military groups had been at war during that period. The United States played a crucial role in their conflict. In addition to providing air support, the U.S. has also backed the Dinah as such. There are conflicts not just between these two factions, but also between individuals who support Al-Shabaab and the United States. Somalia is undoubtedly not among the safest nations in Africa. Taking precautions for the distributing circumstances, the Travel Advisory Level 4 has been issued by the U.S. government because of these wars, kidnapping for financial gain, and piracy. Therefore, Americans are not permitted to visit the area, and if they do, they should depart right away. For Americans still willing to pay a visit to Somalia, things can go beyond worse. Number 1. Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan, a country in Central Asia famous for its burning crater known as the Door to Hell, comes next on our list. This continent of immense deserts ancient ruins, and amazing modern architecture, is unquestionably one of the hardest locations for Americans to travel outside the country because of its strict visa requirements and the government's general mistrust of foreign tourists. The main points of conflict between the two nations are human rights and democratic issues, and the United States has few diplomatic ties with Turkmenistan, in contrast to many other countries that provide an online application process. Turkmenistan, however, requires you to submit your application through an embassy or consultant. Many times submitting the required letter of invitation is the most challenging part of the visa application process. To apply for the letter of invitation, you must make your tour plans through a Turkmen travel agency, which will accomplish the rest. The process can take several weeks, and there is no guarantee of approval. The embassy may reject your application without giving you a reason. So be prepared for that possibility. There are very few opportunities for individual travel in Turkmenistan. However, the majority of visitors must schedule a guided tour in advance for the duration of their stay. Given the political difficulties, security concerns, and diplomatic challenges that exist in certain nations such as North Korea, Syria, Turkestan, Cuba, Libya, Venezuela, Somalia, and Iran, it is possible that Americans will be subject to limitations in those countries to maintain international ties and safeguard the safety and security of travelers. These limits have been put into place before anyone makes plans to travel to certain areas. They need to conduct research and remember to adhere to these restrictions. Respecting and complying with these limitations might help to develop better understanding and cooperation between nations, although it may be disheartening for certain passengers. These limits have their origins in intricate geopolitical dynamics and historical backgrounds. Thanks for being part of us on this journey to explore the top 10 countries where Americans are not allowed. Do not forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up till the next time. Take care. We at Global Insider never say goodbye, because we will surely meet again in the next video. So make sure to subscribe for more. Until next time, explore and expand your horizons, safe travels and adventures.